Welcome back to another episode here on the Hard Hustle Podcast. Today we got Mr. Deon. Deon, where are you coming from virtually?
I am coming from the casual Friday in my basement today.
Love it.
House
Love
in
it.
Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn.
Yeah,
So were you out there excited when New York won and all these years, man? Were you that guy?
I wasn't. I'm a recovering Pelicans fan, so I'm from Lake Charles, Louisiana. So Pels fan naturally. I was excited for the city and New Yorkers having gone 53 years without a championship, but past that, it didn't really do anything for me. But I was excited for them.
Got it. Got it. What brought you to Brooklyn?
A job at Kingsborough Community College with the CUNY system of New York. So I am now the vice president of enrollment management there. Been there since August 18th, 2025. So almost made a year.
Love it, man. And we'll bring you into this line of work. I know you're doing some special things outside of this as well, but what brings you into this line of work?
Yeah, so kind of fell into it. Admissions work. I feel like I have a similar story to most of the folks in enrollment management or admissions counselors. A lot of the folks in higher ed. I was at the University of Louisiana Lafayette, looking for work in coaching in basketball, and so I had just earned a master's degree in business and kind of had little to no direction. I was actually working nights at Walmart with the MBA and working essentially for free with the University of Louisiana Lafayette women's basketball team as their video coordinator, struggling, some would say, looking to find a path. Had a job offer in South Dakota. So I had spent almost a decade in Iowa playing basketball at the NAIA level and then coaching and earning an MBA. And then had a job offer in South Dakota to coach men's basketball. And at the same time, the same month, had an offer to be an admissions counselor at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, and chose the path ultimately that led me to the career path that I'm on today. Initially, had ironically enough, and I live in Brooklyn, had taken that path to stay close to home, to live in Lafayette, Louisiana, about an hour away from my family and in the same town as my wife's family. So, like I said, ironically enough, it took us to Brooklyn, but here we are.
Love it, man. So spend some time here. What are some other things that you do that also just kind of fuel that passion and purpose, man? I think the spaces that we're in doing this type of work is truly just because you love to pour back in, you love to give to others. What are some other things that you're doing outside even of the school?
Yeah, so both of my parents were public educators. My dad was a coach and teacher for 30 years. My mom has been teaching for, well, I want to say about 20 years. My brother was a principal and a coach. So I kind of grew up in a public education family. And I think that those roots kind of entrenched themselves in me growing up, seeing the work that was put in by not only my dad, who was the main who started off as a teacher, and then my mom kind of transitioned from an oil company to a teacher, and then brother kind of went down that path. So it's kind of like in my blood, I guess. But so my wife is also, she's a public defender, so our lives are kind of built around um, public works and employment, and I would like to think we're doing some good in the world. But the pursuit of public education and the results that deliver, I feel like deliver, maybe have been lost a little bit in the cultural zeitgeist of the conversation. But that's kind of where my roots are, and the path that it's taking me down. But I kind of never looked back after that first admissions counselor role. And the institutions that I've worked for thus far have always, I feel like, delivered on the promise of education, regardless of what the narrative is that surrounds it. And my dissertation research, the doctoral path, had also, you know, centered around making sure that education wasn't taking advantage of students. And I feel like every institution that I've chosen has been the opposite
Yeah.
of that point.
I mean, you think you said hope that you guys are doing good. And it's like, come on, man, the work that you guys are doing and being helpful and really pouring into others, the experience you provide someone that may have been in the unknown that did not know, that thought they didn't have an opportunity. I can imagine, Dion, that you're really into those stories often. Do you recall someone that just probably didn't know the direction or maybe didn't know where they can go, and you were part of that journey? Does any story come to mind when we think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an uphill battle considering like I said, like the cultural narrative around um, the conversation around higher education and whether that's worth it or not. And, growing up in Louisiana, um, having those challenges of fighting that basically since my career began, that really the conversation started to shift, definitely around the pandemic, but a couple of years before that. I hate to get political, but with at the
Mhm.
inset of the Trump administration, that's kind of hyper shifted that conversation further. And we really have a lot to do with selling public education. So, as far as one story, it probably happens once a week where I have a conversation with a family, with a student who doesn't think they can afford education. And we're communicating with, in my role, we're communicating with thousands of students a week. So having that conversation when the student walks into our office, and if that conversation gets to my office, it's usually a more significant barrier than it's just handling at the front desk at our admissions counter or our financial aid counter. So, but yeah, those conversations happen about once a week where a student
Love it.
doesn't have the money, or we're looking for alternative ways, whether it's through our foundation at KCC or being creative with our financial aid office. But there's always something that comes up, and our folks on staff usually always find a way around helping out that student.
Love it, man. Fertilizing the future, just one person at a time. When we think about the space of higher ed as well, innovation, we talk about technology, we talk about AI. Where do you see higher ed implementing some of these things or the need to implement some of these things?
Yeah, I mean, I think higher ed in general is a few years behind the times when it comes to adjusting our model or how we're thinking about certain topics. But I think we've done a fairly good job at being on pace with how rushed to market these AI systems are.
Hmm.
And the job market's going to lag behind because I feel like you probably use AI most days. I know my
Hmm.
wife does
Yeah.
in her work. I know cabinet level members and myself at Kingsborough Community College do. So why shouldn't students? We don't want that to. I'm not a faculty member, so you have to take that with a grain of salt. But you know, we definitely have to fit our curriculum around recognizing that AI might be a useful tool for students who are coming in. They're already using it in high school, but you also don't want it to replace the work that needs to happen in order to educate the student. So, in my work, it's helped me personally build forecasting models to determine where we might be in September. To look at our historical models that would have probably taken me a month to build, that it does in 5 minutes. So I would want our students to have those tools at their disposal but you also need to have the background knowledge and the foundation in English and math and even in conversational English to understand when it might be wrong. I think is the most significant thing because in my wife's work and in my work, if that's wrong and I present that to cabinet or I present that to an external um, anything externally outside of my own office, it's a big, big problem. So I think that we need to definitely ingrain AI into our curriculum, but give the students the tools to recognize when it's wrong, when to use it, and when not to use it. It is some of the
Yeah.
most valuable experience that I've had, and I know that my wife has to have, or she could be disbarred. So it's very important in all of our work, but I think giving the students the tools to use it and then know when it doesn't replace, your curriculum is very important.
Love it. Yeah, you're 100%. It's just really, it's not going anywhere. How are we using it for the good? Because as we've evolved, and with technology and social media and all that, they all could be used in the wrong ways, and some of them right now being used in the wrong ways. I think AI is that, but I think there's benefit if used correctly, if understanding what those parameters are, as well as you mentioned. When we come into communication, I believe there's also a different. There's just a change in parents being more involved. So the communication just doesn't become between just a school and a student. Now we're talking about a school and a parent. Are you seeing that more nowadays?
I don't want to say more. I think what students are asking for is authenticity, and that's why you've seen such a rise in influencers over the past, decade or so. Um, Whether it's a restaurant review or uh, a college tour, I think having the students who are there showcasing, earning the education, paying the tuition and fees, and then delivering their view and their perspective is so much more honest and clean than, I try, we take a look at our marketing materials every year. I have conversations across CUNY with our own folks on campus, and every single every single CUNY school, every single school that I've worked at has talked about their campus life, their student organizations, their student to faculty ratio. So how can we differentiate our message? How can we give that authenticity to students? And it's hard. It's definitely hard on a community college budget. It's difficult finding students within 2 years. Most of them are getting on and off campus quickly. So, how do you find that influencer? How do you find students willing to tell your story? We've been lucky on our campus, at least at a minimum, we can have a student who's our ambassadors for our college and who will say, I earned an education degree at Kingsborough, and it led me to this career path. It led me to a scholarship at Cornell. It it's difficult finding those stories, but or the students at least willing to deliver those stories, especially in an authentic manner on their own personal channels. But we're finding ways to do it, and that's what I think will counter that cultural narrative that I had talked about earlier.
And what do you think Kingsborough, when we talk about your community college, what are some of the things people may not expect, but should expect when they show up at this campus? Or for those that just never even know existed, what are some of the special things that you guys are doing?
Well, everyone, we always talk about our beach. So we're the only community college in Brooklyn with a beach. But our
That is
new,
different.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
say
it's very different. I didn't expect that moving here. So it's been interesting. But we're a community college. We are a commuter school. We are most of 90+% of our students receive financial aid, so very few of our students are paying really anything out of pocket. But um, and I'm proud of the work that I do and we do on campus because it is a gateway to, if it's not directly into a career path, it's a gateway to Brooklyn College, to other CUNY 4 years. It's academic recovery from it's public education at its finest, I think, because we are taking students who have two kids and a full-time job, and getting that student to elevate themselves to, make more money or graduate in 2 years from another institution. So, at the foundational level, it's what I think my parents had believed in, what my family members and brothers had believed in, what my wife's work helps, I hope, alleviate some folks who need public defense work. So, earning money and setting themselves up for a life outside of, especially with housing and costs and gas and increasing costs across the board. I feel like we are a springboard for the middle class and folks to elevate themselves in this economy. It's specifically difficult. So I think we do a great job of setting up students for success at Kingsborough.
do you guys have any direct connects with universities and colleges, I guess, in the area
Yeah, so I
after
mean, a
2 year?
big, we're the biggest feeder, I believe, for Brooklyn College, so that's a big feeder for us. Obviously, we send students all over the country. Our valedictorian's going to Cornell. I forget where our salutatorian's going this year, but we send students to Ivies all the time.
Love it.
So, and that's not to say that that's every student's path, because a lot of our marine technology students or our med tech or any of the other job ready workforce, you know, ready programs, we're sending students directly into workforce making $75,000 salaries and higher. So it depends on the job market. It depends on the credential. Um, but and every student's different. Every student's unique. And I feel like our advisors know that. And hopefully, we're setting students up to be successful once they graduate or move on. It's not it's our intention for our students to graduate, but a lot of times students have a 3.0, a 3.5. They've got their 12 or 18 credits and they want to transfer to 4 year colleges. And that's fine by us. We're
Yeah.
not built to graduate everyone. And we understand that, and students can still be successful taking a few credits at a time, and moving on.
Is there any, as we start to wrap this up, any underrated like programs that people are not tapping into but should be tapping into or looking into? I can imagine there's some of those that are really, really good and people just may not know about.
Yeah, so we actually have a partnership with a hospital, at New York Presbyterian, where our nursing students can actually go straight into work. So I don't want to say it's underrated; it's very properly rated. but but
Yeah.
you know, a lot of our students come with the intention of being nurses, and they do become nurses, and they go straight into the workforce. And some will go earn their BSN elsewhere while making money. But it is far and away our most popular program, I believe, and one that definitely sets our students up for success. And like I say it again, it's definitely not underrated, but it's something that the community knows us for, and we deliver on.
What are some of your goals, man, as you continue to just do this work? I can imagine that you have some things in mind that you would love to complete. I always like to hold people accountable here so we can go back to this video. What are some of the things you want to see play out?
So personally, I guess, and professionally, my job, my whole world is to increase enrollment at Kingsborough. Is to deliver on the promises that higher education provides the opportunity for. And so my whole job is to increase freshman enrollment, transfer enrollment, readmit enrollment, and continuing
Yeah.
student enrollment. So we're on track right now. I think we're up near 20% year over year for fall 25 to fall 26. That's very much the enrollment manager's daily, day to day. We're looking at those dashboards, but we're also helping students. We're walking them through the door. We're making sure that each access point, whether it's a student who's reaching out to us, who's calling our office line, making sure there's somebody on the other end, either answering the email or picking up the phone, and then walking them through applying, through being admitted, accepting an offer. You know, we texted 10,000 students last week. And you would be shocked at the replies that some people think were bots, but there are real humans, and a lot of times it's me behind the phone texting. I must have gotten like, I don't know, 200 text message alerts
Holy crap.
on the modern campus. This little thing, I get all the text. You can't see it on the screen, but I get every single text that gets responded to is on my
That is
phone.
crazy.
So
The work that people don't know you do behind the
right,
scenes.
and they think it's a bot most of the time, but I'm like, "No, I'm here." I had one student, mad at me last week because we were requiring the MMR vaccine, and we offer it actually free on campus, but he was complaining about the cost. So I'm just saying, "Come to," I just said, "Come to campus,
We'll
get it for
take care of you.
free," and he said, "Well," he actually texted me back, "I'll send you the bill." I was like, I don't think that's gonna work. Like, it's gonna go unpaid for a while."
I
But
love
yeah,
it.
that's
And where can people find more information about this, man? About the school, about some of the curriculums that are happening, programs?
Yeah, I mean, Googling Kingsborough Community College is the best way. You know, I had to do that, and my first trip to Brooklyn and to New York City was my interview here. Yeah, so we
Wow.
moved sight unseen. We had to get an apartment with 3 dogs and a yard in Brooklyn, New York, sight unseen. And my wife had all these requirements for square footage that we didn't know was going to cost so much. But
I was gonna say that in
yeah,
Brooklyn for sure.
yeah. So, but
Dia,
yeah,
man.
so finding us, you know, you can take a virtual tour. You can come on campus and check us out, check out our beach, talk to me if you if you feel the need. But yeah, googling that and hopefully finding some time and space to meet with one of our admissions counselors or talk to me, talk to our financial aid office, and come check out campus. Would be great to hear from anyone and everyone interested.
But yeah, Dion, thank you so much for your time, man, and
Thank
for
you.
just everything you've been able to pour into this conversation for others to just be able to learn of what's happening in their cities, in their own backyards, or maybe if they're looking to be a part of something that they know exactly where to go, especially if they're in that Brooklyn area and like beaches.
Yeah.
Um, guys, my name's Efrain. This is Dion. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Later.
Thanks.